Hello, friends, and welcome to Pathologic Lucky 711 today. We are going to be solving an Uso-One puzzle, which is a genre with some lying clues, which is unusual for us and tends to be a bit challenging, but I'm sure we can get through it together. Let's start by taking a look at the rules. Uso-One is a dynasty puzzle, which means we shade some cells so that no two shaded cells are orthogonally adjacent and the remaining unshaded cells form one orthogonally connected area. So you should be familiar with this over time from other dynasty puzzles such as Hayawake, for example. It means that when we have a shaded cell in the finished grid, all of its neighbors, north, south, east, and west, are unshaded, and the unshaded cells all together, if you start in any one of them, you can get to any other one of them by traveling horizontally and vertically through that area. Clued cells cannot be shaded and represent the number of shaded cells in the up to 4 cells orthogonal to the clue. So this 2 is saying that there are, of the 1, 2, 3, 4 cells orthogonally adjacent, meaning non-diagonally, of those 4, exactly 2 are shaded. However, exactly 1 clue in each region is incorrect. We have a liar, like this 3 right here. Those are the rules of Uso-One, so it's time to solve a puzzle. Today's Uso-One puzzle was set by Shye. When I am faced with any puzzle with lying clues, and there are several, what I usually look at first are trying to find any clues that simply cannot be true because there isn't any way to satisfy them. And in this puzzle, I can see an in for that because of this 4 clue right here. If this 4 were true, we would need 4 neighbors all to have cells. That's not going to work for several reasons. That wouldn't work anywhere in the grid because as soon as we had that, we would have an unshaded cell that was isolated from the rest of the grid. But it's even worse on the edge of the grid here because there are only 3 potential neighboring spots, not 4. So we can start right off by labeling that one as a liar, and therefore the rest of the clues in this region are telling the truth. We can also, while we're at it, mark every single clue as unshaded because that is guaranteed by the rules, and will make it a little bit easier for me to see patterns that crop up, I think. Alright, so what about these clues that we have marked as telling the truth for sure? The 2 here has only 2 neighbors left. Those are both shaded. This 3 has only 3, so we shade all of those. And we need to unshade the neighbors of those cells that we just shaded. We should also make sure that once we have a dead end, we allow that unshaded cell to see the rest of the grid by going out this way. A knock-on effect, a couple knock-on effects. One is this 1 clue and this 3 clue, because of the unshading we just did, means that they both only have one way to be fulfilled. So the 1 has 1 neighbor here, which is shaded. The 3 has 3 possible neighbors, so those are all shaded, and we unshade the neighbors of those. So after having done that, we are faced with some other clues that have proven to be lying. We have a 0 that has a neighboring shaded cell, so that's a liar. So the rest of the clues in that region are telling the truth. And a 1 that has 2 neighbors, so that's a liar, and anything else in that region is telling the truth. So this truth teller has two neighboring cells that we will mark in and unshade their neighbors. And we have a dead end to sneak out to the rest of the world. We have a 2 right here that has only one candidate cell next to it now, and so it must be lying. Keeping track of my right-clicking and left-clicking is a little tricky. So that's a liar, so therefore these all have unshaded truth-telling clues. And so this truth teller here unshades its neighbors. This truth telling 2 has only one way to get two neighbors, and that fulfills this one as well. We'll unshade the neighbors of the shaded cells. That has given us a true clue with only two neighbors available for the 2. So those both get shaded. 1 is done. And a true 2 up here with two potential neighbors. We'll shade those in, and this 1 is a liar. And now I see that that's probably where I was expected to start, because I could have seen that there's only one clue in this region, and so therefore the only one that's in there must be false. I might as well do that deduction down here in the bottom right corner as well. That one must be false because it's the only one in that region. Unshade the neighbor and make the dead end come out, escape. So we've finished the top left section of the grid. What can we do about clues down here? I see this one. It's a couple steps. I don't know if there's an easier way. Probably is. And now I see the easier way. Okay. So I'll do the easy one first, and then maybe talk about what I saw that was a little bit more obscure. If this two clue has to be a liar. If this were true, there are only two possible neighbors. They are these, and the easy thing to see is that blocks off this region as not touching the rest of the grid. So that's one reason that's false. Another reason it's false is that if it were true, we would shade these two, which would, and this clue, since this was true, this clue would need to be false, and it would have two neighbors, so it would need another neighbor to not be true, which would give us these three shaded, which would isolate this. But that's more steps than we needed. The isolation of this little triangular region is enough to disprove that. So this is false, and this is true. So this can't have both of these shaded. It can have at most one. So to make this true, we need to shade this one. Unshade its neighbor. We have this little region that needs to escape. Once it does so, we know how this clue works. It works by shading that one, unshading its neighbor. We have two clues that are both ones, and they have the same candidate cells. So because they have the same candidate cells and the same numbers, we can say they have the same truth value. They would either have to be both true or both false, depending on what we did here. And since we can have at most one liar in this region, these both have to be true. We could also have seen that an easier way, but that was interesting to me. The easier way is to see that this zero clue is already proven a liar by the presence of this neighbor. So that's a liar. And that's another way to prove that the rest in here are all telling the truth. And since they're telling the truth, the 2 has only one resolution. It's like that. So that gives us the single resolution for this one clue. And the 3 we could still do several ways. Until we know the truth value of this one, we're not going to be able to tell what happens there. This cul-de-sac needs to escape to the outside world. It needs to go up. And in order for this 2 to be false, it needs another shaded cell because it can't have fewer than 2. So it has more than 2, so this is shaded, and that puts the lie to this one, which means these are all true. A one shaded cell next to this clue means this one needs another one, and it's going to come from here. One shaded cell next to here plus that plus this one makes this 2 cells. That's good. We've got a neighboring cell to this shaded one right here, and then that tells us how this resolves. The 1 has to have a shaded cell here. We should unshade our neighbors as we go and make sure that this cul-de-sac makes it out. We have a 2 that is true, and that will be finished by shading this cell. So this region is done. The 3 is restricted now because if both of these were shaded, we would isolate this cell. So at most one of these is shaded, so to get our 3, both of these have to be shaded up here. And either one of these could be the other. We have this region. We got a little cul-de-sac here to escape, like so. And these 2, we have another instance of what we saw down here. These 2 clues must have the same truth value because they have the same number and the same quantity of neighboring candidate cells. It's this one. So they are the same. Can't both be false because that would break the rule about 1 per region. So they are both true. And as soon as we know they're true, we know this is shaded. And I think we're going to have a connectivity argument to finish us off. We need this region to have a false clue in it, so that's this one, and we've assigned the truth value of everything. Because this is false and it has 1 neighbor right now, we need to fix that by giving it at least 1 more, so that one gets it. This true clue and the cul-de-sac both tell us that this is unshaded. And finally, what do we do about this cell? Well, our dynasty rule tells us that this whole section of the grid and this whole section of the grid need to connect. The only place they can connect is through here, so this one is unshaded. And that is how we solve an Uso-One.